You wake up to the shrill sound of your alarm, groggily roll out of bed, and immediately reach for your phone. The notifications are there, waiting for you, demanding your attention. You quickly scroll through emails, social media updates, and text messages as you scramble to get ready for another day. You're not just moving through the motions, you're on autopilot, chasing an invisible goal. The relentless pace is your constant companion. But then you pause for a second and wonder, is this all there is? This is the hustle. It's a word we use so often, hustle. Push harder, work smarter, don't stop, keep grinding. But does this endless pursuit of success, wealth, and efficiency actually bring us closer to the life we want? Or is it slowly eroding everything that's important to us? Jefferson Bethke, in his book To Hell with the Hustle, asks this very question. He's a man who, like many of us, was caught in the cultural whirlwind of do more, achieve more, be more. He was running at full speed, successfully building his brand, growing his platform, working harder and longer each day. But something started to break. He began to feel disconnected from himself, from his family, and from God. He realized that all this striving, all this hustling, wasn't leading him toward true life. It was leading him toward burnout, anxiety, and a sense of spiritual emptiness. But here's the twist. Bethke doesn't just offer a critique of hustle culture. He offers a way out. His solution is radical. To hell with the hustle. Let go of the chase. Stop idolizing productivity and embrace a life of rest, simplicity, and deeper connection with God, people, and yourself. Imagine waking up not with the frantic buzz of your phone or the weight of a never-ending to-do list, but with a sense of peace. No alarms, no rush, just a quiet moment to breathe and reflect. This doesn't sound like the world we know, does it? But what if it's the world we were meant to live in? Bethke believes that hustle culture isn't just an external problem, it's an internal one. It's about how we view ourselves, our worth, and the very essence of our being. We've been taught, especially in the Western world, that success comes from working harder, doing more, achieving bigger. But in the process, we've neglected our souls, our relationships, and the things that truly bring us joy. Bethke argues that the pace we've set for ourselves is unsustainable. We're constantly running on empty, trying to fill a void that nothing external can satisfy. The result is anxiety, stress, and a growing sense of spiritual disconnection. It's a culture of noise, competition, and comparison. A culture that tells us we're not enough unless we're constantly moving, constantly achieving, constantly proving ourselves. This was exactly the reality Bethke faced. He found himself at a crossroads, struggling to balance his work life with his family life, feeling disconnected from his wife and children, and experiencing a deep sense of spiritual dryness. He wasn't just physically tired, he was emotionally and spiritually drained. Something had to change. And that's where the idea of ruthless elimination of hustle comes in. Bethke's journey began with one simple realization. Hustle culture is a lie. It's a lie that tells us that our value is determined by our productivity, our accomplishments, and our success. It tells us that the more we do, the more we are worth. But this isn't true. True worth doesn't come from what we do. It comes from who we are. Bethke takes us through a process of unlearning this hustle mindset and embracing something radically different. A life of rest, simplicity, and intentionality. The antidote to hustle isn't just working less. It's living more intentionally. It's about creating rhythms in our lives that allow us to slow down, to focus on what truly matters, and to rediscover the things that bring us joy, fulfillment, and peace. But how do we make this shift? How do we go from the hustle-driven, always-on, achievement-focused life to a slower, more intentional one? The key, Bethke argues, is in forming new habits, new rhythms, and new practices that help us reconnect with ourselves and with God. Bethke outlines several practical steps to help us do this, beginning with a radical shift in how we approach time. In our hustle culture, time is seen as a resource to be maximized, optimized, and used up. But what if time is not something to be used, but something to be enjoyed? Bethke encourages us to see time as a gift, something to be savored, not squandered in the race to do more. The first practice Bethke introduces is the practice of rest. Real rest. Not just taking a vacation once a year or squeezing in a few hours of sleep between work deadlines, but intentional, weekly, regular rest. This practice is rooted in the biblical idea of the Sabbath, a day set aside for rest, for reflection, and for reconnecting with God. In our world, the Sabbath is countercultural. It goes against everything we've been taught about productivity and achievement, but it's also life-giving. When we rest, we remind ourselves that we are not machines to be used up. We are human beings with souls that need time to heal, to reflect, and to recharge. But rest doesn't just mean stopping work. It also means slowing down. It means simplifying our lives to the point where we're not constantly rushing from one task to the next. This leads to the second practice, simplicity. Bethke urges us to examine the clutter in our lives, not just the physical clutter in our homes, but the mental and emotional clutter that distracts us from what's truly important. We live in a culture that is obsessed with more. More things, more experiences, more achievements, but what if less is more? What if we could find true happiness and fulfillment in simplicity? What if we could stop chasing the next big thing and start appreciating the little things that make life beautiful? The third practice is silence. In a world filled with constant noise and distractions, silence can feel like a foreign concept. But silence, Bethke argues, is essential for spiritual growth and emotional healing. It's in silence that we can hear the still small voice of God. It's in silence that we can reconnect with our inner selves and with the things that truly matter. And then there's the practice of saying no. We've all heard the saying, "You can't do everything." But how often do we actually live that truth? How often do we say yes to things out of obligation, fear of missing out, or the pressure to do it all? Bethke emphasizes the power of saying no. Saying no doesn't just protect our time, it protects our souls. It's an act of resistance against the hustle culture that tells us we have to do it all and be it all. These practices, rest, simplicity, silence, and saying no, are not just things to check off a list. They are rhythms, habits, and mindsets that help us resist the pressures of hustle culture and cultivate a life that is slower, more intentional, and more deeply connected to God and to others. But the journey doesn't end there. As Bethke continues his exploration of a life free from hustle, he challenges us to think about what we are truly pursuing. What are we living for? Is it success, fame, wealth, achievement? Or is it something deeper, something eternal? Bethke argues that the pursuit of success and achievement, while not inherently wrong, can easily become an idol. We can find ourselves chasing after things that don't bring lasting fulfillment, things that ultimately leave us empty. But the way of Jesus offers something better, a life of peace, joy, and contentment. Jesus invites us into a life of rest, not just physical rest, but rest for our souls. He invites us into a life where we are not defined by what we do, but by who we are in Him. The journey out of hustle culture is not an easy one. It requires a radical shift in how we view ourselves, our work, and our worth. It requires us to stop chasing the next big thing and start pursuing what truly matters. It requires us to embrace the rhythms of rest, simplicity, and silence, and to resist the pressure to constantly do more. But it is a journey worth taking, because when we let go of the hustle, we make space for something better. We make space for God. We make space for peace. We make space for the things that truly bring life. So what will it be? Will you continue to chase the hustle, running faster and faster, only to find yourself more exhausted and disconnected? Or will you say to hell with the hustle and choose a different way, a way of rest, simplicity, and connection? The choice is yours. But know this, you were not created to hustle your way through life. You were created to live fully, to rest deeply, and to love radically. And that life is waiting for you.